this is it. And it came down to 6 big categories. And because I want to make it easy for people to remember, I figured I wanted to come up with an acronym, a mnemonic, so that you can remember it, right?
Yeah.
And I am also a word person, so sitting in my office, I actually found that they spelled the word FIGHTS, which stands for food, infections, gut health, hormone balance, toxins, and stress. And these are not little categories. They're each big. So when I asked each of these people who's going to be in my book, how did you heal? And then I asked these people, what do you do with other people who come to you seeking healing? And every single person said, start with food. Well, the gold standard to figure out if food is blocking your healing with the root cause of your MS is to do an elimination diet, a strict elimination diet. You ever heard of that? You've heard of it, okay. Where you take out the toxic or suspect foods for about 30 days or longer, you add them back in slowly and one at a time, and you monitor yourself to see how you're responding to these foods. So what are the benefits of doing an elimination diet? A lot of good things. So if food is in fact at the root of your autoimmune condition, it means that it's creating inflammation in your body, and inflammation is the root cause of every chronic disease that we're aware of. So you have an inflammatory response going. I had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on whole wheat bread every day of my life growing up as a child. I had pizza, pasta, and when I got older, beer, and probably a steady stream of gluten every day. Now, gluten causes intestinal permeability in everyone, not just people who are genetically susceptible to autoimmune conditions, but everyone. It's a really difficult to digest molecule. It's kind of like hair, which sounds terrible, but that's what it's like. So you take away the suspect and toxic foods for enough period of time. And this is really where the tough love of my talk comes in, because I'm going to flash a slide that's going to show you all the foods that you should consider removing for about a month. And you might find that some of these foods are things that you eat every day, and you love them. Because food is not just fuel, right? It's information, it's love, it's comfort, it's security. So this is where you kind of got to dig deep and realize that, you know, maybe there's a future that's out here somewhere ahead of me where I have more freedom from the symptoms that I'm experiencing, and maybe, just maybe, I can do something for 30 days. So let me show you what they said the top foods were. Here are the top autoimmune trigger foods: gluten, dairy, eggs, sugar, and processed foods are really at the top of the list. And I really want you to understand that not everybody in this room is reacting to all of these foods. I'm not. There's a lot of things out here that I can eat with no problem. But for 30 days, this is one of the best, if not the best, experiment that you can do to see if, in fact, food is the root of your healing. And when I ask these practitioners, what percentage of your patient's symptoms, the numbness, the tingling, fatigue, extreme pain, blah, 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 goes away when they remove these foods? They said anywhere between 60 and 100%. The average person told me about 80% of the symptoms can go away. This is not a guarantee by any stretch of the imagination. This is one category called food, and it's a percentage within that category. It happened to be a really big deal for me, but isn't it worth it for 30 days to give it a try? So people often say, well, what in the world can I eat? And I have to say that there's loads of nourishing food that you can eat. The mainstays being healthy proteins, the grass-fed wild variety of fish, meat, and chicken, and ample vegetables. That's really the mainstay of this particular approach for 30 days, with the exception of nightshades, which are tomatoes, white potatoes, eggplants, and peppers. Especially if you have chronic pain, you want to make sure that you take those out for 30 days.
On the meat thing, I had learned a long time ago that the only thing that was absolutely certain that people heard MS was saturated fat. So I cut out red meat 25 years ago.
I did that for a period of time too, and I came to find out that that wasn't true for me, and in the literature and research that I found. Dr. David Perlmutter is a neurologist that you may be familiar with, who wrote Brain, and he and many other experts are advocates of something called a ketogenic diet, which is actually very high or higher in saturated fat, less so in the vegetable oil categories. But you may want to think about adding some of that back in and just seeing it as an experiment. Does it actually help? Just an experiment. So this is an invitation to maybe put your lab coat on and give it a try for 30 days. Now, I don't like the word elimination diet because the word eliminate, it sounds really scary to take things away, and diet, who wants to go on another diet? They don't typically work. The root word of diet is die, doesn't sound very pleasant. So I call it a 30-day food vacation because you actually get to take a vacation from these toxic foods and hopefully a vacation from your symptoms too. There are success factors to making this a successful experiment for you. And one of them is to plan ahead. You don't want to be going on vacation when you start something like this. Mexico sounds great, but not a good time to start a 30-day food vacation. You really ideally want to do this with a friend, a buddy, somebody at home who lives with you. You don't want them to be eating pizza. You can't, and that's not very fun. So finding a buddy, maybe even in this group, as a consideration for something like this. Other secrets to success: get recipes in advance. The Autoimmune Paleo Protocol, don't know if you've heard of it, AIP for short, is something you can Google. There's like 500,000 recipes when you do a search for autoimmune protocol recipes. That most closely matches this particular phase. Remember, it's only 30 days. I want to leave this quote up here because thank you, I adore this quote. And it says, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed that is not faced." And there are quotes out there. I mentioned the Walls Protocol, which is Terry Wall's book. There's also a fairly new book called The Whole 30. The Whole 30, have you heard of this? It's another good one that can walk you through on a step-by-step basis an elimination diet. The only difference between what I'm recommending with the slides, which you'll get from today, is eggs, because Dr. Walls and other practitioners have issues, in particular with egg whites. You'll notice that most of those foods are proteins. So people are responding to gluten, to cow dairy, to egg whites, to almonds. Those are all protein molecules that the body has difficulty with. More specifically, the immune system has trouble with. So in any event, that's why eggs are on this list. If you have autoimmune issues, give it a try for 30 days to see if you feel better. And certainly if you have chronic pain, then you really want to consider those nightshades. Those are the tomatoes, the white potatoes. Say that again.
We just planted
I
tomatoes.
know.
I did better wear a nightshade.
Just for 30 days.
I know. I have salsa every day.
So the things that you eat every day are something to just consider.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why food sensitivities develop, and I went to the experts and asked them, why does this happen?
Yeah.
The stuff that we eat every day is the stuff that we become sensitive to. You know, we don't all need to go through that level of suffering. Of course, it's optional, but now that we know and the research is there that shows, you know, that there's this thing, leaky gut, hyperintestinal permeability is real. It's not a made-up thing. It's really real. There's research out of Harvard that confirms this, that, boy, if we just identify what our own triggers are, take them out, heal up that gut, and the devil's in the details. I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm just trying to help simplify it by putting the most usual suspects on that list for you to consider. But again, you know, one person's root causes are not somebody else's, so I want to be really, really clear, and I'll say it for the third time. My experience of removing the gluten and addressing chronic stress is not everybody else's experience. I don't promise anything. I'm just sharing information and the science that I've learned, which is so exciting that I feel like I need to stand on the rooftops and share it with everybody, because There's so much that you can do, and how dare anybody ever tell you there's nothing you can do, because that is the most dismissive, untrue thing that somebody can say.